Ravens flock, what's going on? I hope everybody's having a good week so far. I'm back with another video, and we are a little bit deeper into the offseason now, and we are getting more serious about thinking about some of the moves we hope our team makes this offseason to give us a better chance of getting over the hump and making it to the Super Bowl in 2026. And I wanted to talk about 5 free agents that I hope the Ravens consider signing this offseason that I believe would make a decent to great difference in getting us over that hump. Now, 4 out of these 5 players I think are very realistic for us to get. One of these players, I don't think it's super realistic for us to get, but I wanted to mention him anyway. I'm sure most of you can probably guess who it is. So I'm not going to talk too much about these guys' expected salaries when they do eventually sign during this offseason, because it's not my job to figure out how we would how we would free up the money to get some of these guys. These are just guys that I think the Ravens should try to figure out how to get on the team by any means necessary. Even if we don't get most of them, to get 1 or 2 of these guys I think would make a massive difference. So I'm gonna start off with Higgins, because as many people would already expect, that's probably the least realistic option that I think we should still consider getting, but we're probably not gonna get Higgins. Higgins, as everybody knows, he fired his agent and he hired Jamar Chase's agent. So I'm sure that T and Jamar already have made an agreement behind closed doors that they're gonna try to get a deal for both of them that will make both of them satisfied, because Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow have both stated that they want T to stay by any means necessary. I don't know how realistic that is, but anything's possible. But at the same time, a team like the Bengals have been known to not want to pay a lot of people, so I'm not sure if they're going to want to pay T Higgins and Jamar Chase, but we'll see what comes from that. But of course, a guy like T Higgins, the appeal is obvious. He fits more of that big body receiver archetype, and I know big bodies aren't necessarily the end all be all when it comes to receiver, but when you watch him play, he's clearly a guy who has that number 1 potential, or at the very least can be a high level number 2. Like, he does everything you could possibly want him to do. He might have the best hands in football, because I very rarely see him even rely on his body to catch. He usually is just relying on his length and his hands to just bring everything in. But the next player I wanted to talk about is a player that we're all very familiar with, which is Kevin Zeitler. Right now, he's playing for the Detroit Lions. He is now a free agent. He's a guy in the later part of his career, obviously. He's getting older. And I'm assuming that's why Eric DeCosta wanted to let him go last year, but I think that was a bit premature, because it's clear that the Ravens did not have an actual replacement already lined up, a competent replacement lined up for Kevin Zeitler. So I would like to see them bring back Kevin Zeitler, and even if they bring back the exact same guys and just letting them develop behind Kevin Zeitler for a year, maybe that could possibly make a difference for them. But in a perfect world, I would rather see them sign Kevin Zeitler and then also still draft a guy like Donovan Jackson or Tyler Booker or whoever else you can find in the draft who you may possibly like. And when you look at the way Kevin performed with the Detroit Lions this year, it's obvious that he still has a lot left in the tank, even though he may be getting older, and that's going to be a big concern. But he's still a guy who, at the very least, can be a very solid, reliable starter, which is what we did not have at the left or right guard position this year. So it would be nice to bring some sort of stability at one of our guard positions. Like, he's coming off of a year where he was the 5th highest rated guard in the NFL overall, and he was the 3rd highest rated run blocking guard in the NFL, which we already know as fans who've already watched him play for our team, we know he would help a lot and make it a little easier for Derrick Henry to be able to run the ball this year. But if we don't end up getting Kevin Zeitler, another person I would want to see us look into instead would be Brandon Scherff. I think I might have messed his name up, but y'all know what I mean. Brandon Scherff, he's the guard for the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. He's another veteran guard who spent time playing with the Commanders before he played with the Jaguars. He's again another guy who at the very least would be a solid veteran starting guard who can help the guys we currently have develop, or if we draft some guys, can take them under his wing for a year or two. And I would like to see him be brought in. Like, these are guys who I don't think are gonna break the bank. Like my bad, I almost said T. Higgins, but it's Kevin Zeitler didn't even sign for a crazy amount of money with the Detroit Lions. I don't think Kevin Zeitler at this point is even looking for a crazy amount of money. Brandon Scherff shouldn't be looking for a crazy amount of money either. These are guys who I do believe are probably just looking to be solid starters on a contending team, which is what we are. Hopefully we check them out. So another player that I wanted us to look into this offseason is Chase Young, which is a player that at one point a lot of Ravens fans were interested in, but it seems like Ravens fans have kind of forgot about him. But I still like the potential of a Chase Young. I think he might be the most underrated player in free agency this year. I know a lot of Ravens fans have their eyes set on Khalil Mack instead, which I'm cool with too. Like, it doesn't really matter to me that much, but I would still be more intrigued with the signing of a guy like Chase Young. It's a bit of a risk, of course, because he's had injury issues his whole career. He's a guy who, even though he was a top pick due to injuries, he's never really lived up to that hype and potential, but he's still somebody who's been a solid starter with some upside. He just played a full season for like pretty much the first time this year. He played with the Saints. He only had 5.5 sacks this past season, which isn't too crazy, but he did also have 66 pressures, which was the 7th highest in the NFL, and 47 hurries, which was the 5th highest in the NFL. So he was fairly productive. I would like to see what Zach Gore and his defense would allow him to do and what he could be able to provide for us. And the main thing that still makes me so interested in a guy like Chase Young is the fact that he's still so young. Like, he's only 25 years old. Like, I had to double check his age because it felt like he was in the league for so much longer than he actually was, but he's only 25 years old. And even though I think Khalil Mack is a better player, that's kind of the thing that I think would make people a little nervous, even if we did bring in Khalil Mack, is just wondering how much longer does he want to play. Whereas a guy like Chase Young, there's no way he wants to retire anytime soon. He's 25 years old. Like, he's still looking to get his like first like super big contract, and that's another reason I think this could be a very valuable signing for us or whoever signs him. Is just on top of the upside, he's not going to cost that much money. I can't imagine he would demand that much money in free agency this year just because he's never lived up to that hype coming out of the draft. But we'll see what happens with that. The last player that I wanted to talk about in this video was Carlton Davis III, who is a cornerback. He played for the Detroit Lions. He used to play for the Buccaneers a couple years ago, but most recently he's played for the
best
Detroit
defensive
Lions.
back? You know, I'm a former DB. Who's the best DB you've played against?
For me, I'll say Carlton Davis. Only reason why I say Carlton Davis because he was longer than I expected. You know what I'm saying? Longer arms, and
all of us know that we need to make a tough decision when it comes to Brandon Stephens, but even though I like Brandon Stephens, I don't think it's that tough of a decision, honestly. I think we need to move on from him. We need to find a better replacement. And I think a guy like Carlton Davis would be a better replacement. He's a solid starting caliber cornerback who I know people feel iffy about PFF, but still, at the end of the day, on PFF, he's rated the 29th best cornerback in football, whereas a guy like Brandon Stephens is rated the 153rd best, which for all of us Ravens fans who watched Brandon Stephens this year, that's actually not that surprising. I do think it would be a solid upgrade at the cornerback position. He only had 2 picks last year, but at the very least, he was still able to create some turnover. He was able to find the ball to some extent, whereas Brandon Stevens, unfortunately, he wasn't able to create any turnovers last year. To this day, Brandon still struggles to get his head around to find the ball, to pick the ball off more. And so I would definitely like to see us make a move like that to upgrade the cornerback room. I don't think he would demand that much money either. So that's all I got for this video. I wanted to try to keep it fairly balanced. Like, I wanted to continue on that theme I mentioned like 1 or 2 videos ago when referencing the Eagles and talking about how the biggest thing you notice is just how well balanced they are top to bottom. These are the players that I would like to see us look into signing. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, and let me know if you think we will end up signing one of these guys.